Think you've seen it all? Think again.
Bet you didn't expect this, did you? Yeah, I'm cheating this month, as I'm doing 2 videos for this one day. But as I was writing through my Christopher Eccleston video, I was interested in doing the ways what would have changed if we instead asked this question: what if David Tennant had stayed on as the Doctor? With David, the question has been answered before. How would something like Series 5 change with Tennant staying on? However, I feel like they've only gone into brief aspects of the series in their interpretations, and perhaps I could have a go going through changes that would work and not break any established rules with the planning of the show. So, anyways, let's get on with this. As I'm talking about the 2009 specials, little and big stuff would change for the show overall. The End of Time Part 2 would be the most affected, with the changing of the character conclusions to the Doctor and Wolf to the simple fact that the 10th Doctor wouldn't die. Most likely he would have calmed down his Time Lord Victorious persona down, since he was so close to death and could barely escape at this time, but he knows that soon his song will still end. The story would briefly end as the Doctor would now be aimless in space, figuring out what he would do next. With Series 5, of course, he would have to include the Doctor at the beginning of the 11th hour, which would have to revert to his original working title, The Doctor Returns, as it would not make sense to call it the 11th hour when it doesn't start at the 11th Doctor. The younger version of the Doctor would not recognise Amy or Amelia. He would be the most confused throughout the episode, but not want to know the future events in case they would harm his current life at the moment. I would think that Amy would have to try and convince the Doctor to travel with her, as he would probably want no companions after his incident with Wolf, the Master, and the Time Lords. This would bring in a new aspect in the Doctor and companion relationships, as they would have to enjoy their time together. But for Amy, it's a little underwhelming that this Doctor isn't the one that she grew up wanting to have adventures with. With the Beast Below, the Doctor would be less in anger with Amy, since he already knows that his companions can make the decisions, and he knows that if he is too harsh on Amy, he could unleash the Time of Victorious again, and he doesn't want that to stick around. With the government aspect of which, the Doctor I still think would be involved, but less in the way of how 11 portrayed it, angry and ready to overthrow it, as he says. Victory of the Daleks would change, since the Doctor would be more on edge with the Daleks. Of course, the relationship with Churchill wouldn't change, as has been shown in Big Finish, where he is to be shown in the same working relationship as he would be in his 10th incarnation, than even if he was in his 11th or 9th. The Daleks would hit him hard, as he would be partially involved with their destruction, and for them to escape would be disheartening again. He's had enough of them, but he couldn't let them blow up the Earth this time, so he has to let them go for their own victory. As Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone arrives, the Doctor would obviously be on the verge of obviously wanting to ask River some questions about her past for his future, but never telling her right about her future, which he had recently visited. That would be the same for the Weeping Angels, since he would obviously know them from the Sally Sparrow. Maybe a reference would be placed in there. He would of course be less angry at River, because he already knows he's already displayed some anger to her when he last saw her. The Doctor would also have a reason to get Rory back into Amy's life, after she's had the traumatic adventure that she's had, that Rory would be the cure for the wild adventures that they would have. With that in mind, the Vampires of Venice now has a proper crux, with Rory joining in so that Amy is safe and has someone to care about. The Doctor would probably not want to bring them on for a date, but just to bring them on so Rory knows about the adventures and keep up with Amy in check throughout them. I feel like the satirising the story against the Doctor would have a sort of callback to the meeting between Ten and Mr. Finch in School Reunion, I guess due to the 2 stories being written by the same writer, Toby Whithouse, but in a different way, so the scene isn't completely the same. The most major changes would come into Amy's choice. The original episode had the machinations of the Dream Lord, which is the mirror or the dark side version of the 11th Doctor. However, I'd think with that episode it would have to be the version of his Time Lord Victorious persona that would be stuck in his mind after the events of Waters of Mars being in the past, but still in his memory after he went too far after saving Adelaide. Amy would have to choose again, but this time with a person who could take her too far and may leave her for dead, or ruin her life, or Rory, who she's really destined to be with. When it come to the hungry earth and cold blood, minimal changes would have to be made. The Doctor would be hit with losing another companion near to how he lost Rose, in a place where he thinks that he can't get to and from his breach. Contrary to what people would believe, I don't think he would go into his end of time mode with him ranting and, spawning around the place. He would have to just find Amy again, have to try and get her to still remember about Rory, help her regain her memory, but she still loses it. Losing the aspect of Rory would also give him the move to keep her safe, even though she's got no one to care for anymore. Vincent and the Doctor, I feel like, would have been like an unquiet death of 10, more emotional and have more meaning. I don't know why 11 would take her to Arcadia, since that would be removed since 10 had his fair share of time with trouble at the end of time. So I guess that would be the only change. The Lodger was obviously designed with Tennant in mind, so with this I guess they'd be the one perfect match where the idea mixes with the Doctor in mind. I guess it would be more like the comic, since the original comic worked with Tennant's Doctor in mind, and everything with Matt's Doctor had to be reworked since Tennant's had already gone. So, probably no shower rescue or something like that. It depends, because really this episode works with Matt, so I think it'd also work with David due to his origins. Then comes the two-part finale, the Pandorica Open, which I think would work in the same way it does officially. Probably without the speech? Yeah, I know, but unfortunately that speech was really all Matt's. It was one of the defining moments of his Doctor in Series 5, and placing it with David wouldn't work as much. Now the bigger question to ask is, where would you place the death of the 10th Doctor? Well, of course I would place it in the next episode, The Big Bang, where the Dalek shoots the Doctor. Now yes, I know it's a bit of irony because he already escaped his death from a Dalek, but I feel like it works. The Dalek that gets him in this story is the one that already gets him when he's already escaped it, and then well, you could guess he would regenerate at the end of the story, but I'm going to pull it back for one more episode. So, the last ever episode of Tennant would be A Christmas Carol. Now, you may look at this and think that would never work because it would be replaced with something less powerful. Well, that was the idea that Russell had at the end of time initially, when Tennant's Doctor would die from a smaller injuries that would be caused from a spaceship leak, which is the thing that would cause him to regenerate, and that's how it works. The smaller things kill you more than the bigger ones, and this story would show that even after all that he's done, the Doctor still had one more chance at saving someone's Christmas before he had to go. And then, in the figure of light, Matt Smith would step out, and now Amy and Rory would have to get used to the fact that the Doctor is not the one that they knew, and is definitely not the same man.